So Aaron, take us back before real estate. I mean, what were you doing and how did Aaron Kauffman get into this industry?
Well, you got to go way back. I'm a son of two PhDs. Father was a professor at Emory, went to Harvard, PhD in physics. Mom's a psychologist. Brother's a PhD, Fulbright Scholar winner. I'm the entrepreneur of the family, the black sheep, and the poster boy for ADHD. So it was, it was a struggle for the first, I'll say 3 decades of my life. Fortunately, I had some amazing parents that allowed me to find my way. And, I graduated from Emory University here in Atlanta with a sociology degree and a 2.0 GPA. I actually had to go to summer school to get my senior GPA up so that I could graduate. So I had a really good time in college. And fortunately, Emory allows faculty to send their kids to Emory for free. So I don't have too much guilt over that education that I didn't take advantage of. But I came out of college. I was qualified to be a social worker or, of course, to get into sales. And, I'd always considered myself a natural born salesman. I think my parents probably had some other adjectives to describe my talents back then. But, guys, I got into sales. And I was, of course, attracted to sales jobs where there was a potential to make a lot of money, and kind of that was my driving force, looking for places where I could make a lot of money. And what happened was I would realize 6 months, a year into that sales job, if I'm not passionate, if I'm not excited about the product or service that I'm selling, I don't care how much money I could make selling this product. I'm not going to stick around long enough to be successful. And so for the first decade of my sales career, I bounced around from sales job to sales job. I never stuck around long enough to build up any kind of momentum. I was basically 30, an entrepreneur with debt, with potential. And, you start getting in your 30s and you start having potential, that becomes, can be a big weight on your shoulders. You either are what you are or you're going to make it happen. And so I had this point where I said, look, I either need to grow up and find something sell something I don't believe in or find something I'm passionate about. And I think that's what ultimately attracted me into a residential real estate career, because of course,
well, I'm going to stop you right there, Aaron, because just this morning I had one of our regional leadership council members at my brokerage sitting beside me and telling the story. We're going through Think and Grow Rich with some of the agents in our office. And he sat beside me and he told me the story about his dad who went door to door selling encyclopedias, putting 3 kids through college. And he said, Don, I'm enthusiastic about my encyclopedias, and that's how I can make it happen. And I think that's just like a perfect example. I don't care if it's encyclopedias or it's jet engines or it's mansions. Like if you're not enthusiastic about it, you're not going to have that same level of success. So sorry to cut you off, but keep going.
No, I'm the first to cut somebody off. So, but David, one interesting thing there was, obviously there are people that are very successful that don't necessarily are passionate about what they do, but their personal why is big enough to make them not care, right? Just to be successful because they're so purposeful about it. I think I had a lot of growing up to do. I was probably looking more for external validation or credibility or how I define success. And so, so for me, I didn't have that big enough why yet to allow me to, I think, stay in a job where I had to be successful. And so residential real estate sort of attracted me because this idea that in real estate, the agent is the product. Yeah. If you're a committed agent, right, and you commit to mastery and you honor the customer experience, you've got great communication skills, there's a sense of being genuine in what you're selling. When a buyer or seller would be lucky to work with you and your team, that's a pretty powerful feeling. And so that's what brought me into real estate. And, I came out of licensing school here in Atlanta back in 2001. And, of course, they don't teach you anything in real estate school, which is why KW is launching K-Score and KW Prep. But look, coming out of licensing school, I didn't know what it took to be successful. I didn't even know how real estate companies were even different. And there was a local company in Atlanta called Northside Realty. They had about 10 offices in Atlanta. One of them was literally walking distance from my house. So being ADHD, walked into that office. They offered me a job, didn't interview with any other companies. Bam, I became a Northside agent. I sold with them for almost a year. They were then bought by Coldwell Banker, became a Coldwell Banker agent, sold for a couple more years. And then I had a chance to obviously come to Keller Williams. And I don't know if you want to go all the way with the Keller Williams story, but when I came here, I wanted nothing to do with profit share. I'd heard all the rumors. I thought, people all the things that people say about KW. I wasn't interested in profit share, didn't want to know how it worked. But David, I was very lucky. I joined the number one region of KW, Southeast region. I joined what is now a top 10 market center, which is the Atlanta Peachtree Road Market Center, run by a guy named Sean Rawls. I don't know if you guys know that name, but here's the deal, man. I joined an incredible market center that follows the model. Top agents buy into the culture. They teach classes, they buy into community, and so for the first 2 years at Keller Williams, I was just enjoying my experiences at KW. And then, of course, I had a chance to be on the ALC. That was a big eye opener for me. And then I went to Family Reunion in 2005. And God bless them, man. Dave Jenks, Gary Keller up on stage in 2005 doing State of the Company. And, back in 2005, we were ranked 5th in the US. We had about 32,000 agents. And, Gary Keller said some things that really stuck with me. He said, the number one income producing activity that a KW associate can participate in is attracting other agents to Keller Williams. That's the first thing he said. The second thing he said is many of the leaders of this industry 5 years from now, they're not even in the business yet. And so it's just, when you see Gary Keller speak for the first time, he's Steve Jobs, right? He's talking directly into your brain if you're open to receiving what he has to say. And so came back from Family Reunion, and I had what I call my immaculate conception. And for a non-religious Jewish boy, this is about as close as I've gotten to a religious experience. But guys, I'm telling you, it hit me like a ton of bricks. I said, this is it. This is the product I've been looking for my whole life. And I want to be clear, I was a good agent. Okay, I was a capping agent. But at that moment, I believe more in Keller Williams as a product and as a wealth building opportunity than I ever did as myself as a real estate agent. And that's the last day I sold a house, February 2005. And so there was an agent in my office at the time that was a big internet lead generator for real estate that I had a great synergy with. I was like, dude, I'm going to do what you're doing, except I'm going to go after new agents off the internet. And so I launched a website. I did not ask for permission. I was expecting to ask for forgiveness someday because I knew I was going to do it the right way. But I launched the website, spent a bunch of money driving traffic to it, broke all the recruiting records in Keller Williams, and then the market crashed in 07, 08. I know you guys felt that pain hardcore in Arizona. And guys, I'm going to be vulnerable with you. I walked across the stage in 2006 and 2007. I won the Growth Partner of the Year award for the entire company, sponsored the most people in all of KW both years. I shook Gary Keller's hands. People were chanting my name. When the market crashed, I had to get a second job. I shut my real estate business down. All right. I'm not saying I did everything the right way. And there's a name of a book that I'm never going to write. It's called All or Nothing, the ADHDer's Guide to the Universe. And the day that I decided to make profit share my one thing is the day I stopped selling real estate. So it wasn't like I could just plug into my real estate business and start generating money. So I needed a job where I could make some instant money that was low stress and I could make some immediate cash. And so I started waiting tables 6 nights a week, 2 lunches, brunch on Sunday. I was taking my tip money, I was paying off my lead generation bills, which were like $3-4 grand a month. And I was recruiting during the day or when I wasn't working. And so the cool thing about my story is I met my wife at that restaurant. She's a professional photographer here in Atlanta. She had to get a second job. We met in that restaurant. We got married in that restaurant. She didn't love me for how much money I had because I was broke. But David, I know, and Joe, I don't know if you're married or not, but it's funny how when you get married, your why changes quite a bit. And so my wife's like, look, this crossing your fingers on the 21st of the month deal, it's not working for me. So you better go sell some houses or figure out another way to make money. And so my wife kicked me out of my comfort zone to build the KW effect, which is this class that I teach around Keller Williams. I've taught it for over a decade. One of the things I love about KW, it's not just about what you get, it's about who you become. Never would have imagined when I started this journey, I would become the Aaron Kauffman, and I'm joking when I say that, but I've been even during the pandemic, guys, I was able to pivot to Zoom and live my life by design by just teaching my class virtually for the last 2 years. So I'm so grateful about that. But here's the deal. Started teaching my class, but never really wanted to give up on the real prize, which was building a life by design through profit share. And I want to be very clear, when I say life by design through profit share, I'm not working and I'm making $1 million+ a year in profit share. That's my life by design. All right. So I never wanted to give up on that dream, but I was getting burned out, guys. I was waiting tables a bunch. I was recruiting. There's all kinds of wonderful things that go along with being the first person to do internet recruiting in Keller Williams. I'll save you that story for another day. But something interesting happened. A couple of people that I brought into KW came to me right about that time. And they said, Aaron, we want to learn how to do what you're doing. I said, awesome, because I'm burned out. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to teach you how to recruit, but I'm going to do you one better. I'm going to give you the leads. So guys, I started running my profit share business like an MREA team. So the people that I've sponsored to KW, they're like my buyer's agents, right? What better manifestation of success through others than to help people I've sponsored to KW sponsor people to KW, right? So one of the guys I brought to KW, a guy named Brent Mitchell, I'm sure you know that name, David. He basically said, Aaron, I can do this better than you. And he went out there and he did it better than me. And, what does Gary Keller say? Attract people to your business that are better than you than what you do, right? Yeah, Brent Mitchell's a better internet recruiter than me. I'm a better teacher and a better coach. And that's why I do that full time. And that's why Brent does what he does full time, which is building our profit share tree. So Brent, I've sponsored 400 agents directly to KW. That's what I did that between 2005 and about 2011. Brent sponsored over 1,800 people to Keller Williams. He's now on the top first page for top profit share earners in KW, made $191,000 in profit share this year. But here's the key, guys. He makes 98% of his money off of his first level. And if you understand profit share, people like Linda McKissick and Mike Brody, these people make upwards of $1 million a year in profit share. They make all of their money off their fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh levels. The saying goes, if you build it wide, time will take it deep. So Brent and I are the only two people in the top 100 profit share earners in KW that make 95% of our profit share money off of our top four levels. And, one of the things I say to people, David, you can never calculate your return on investment for profit share. You can never do it. Okay. First of all, how can you predict who somebody might become and who they might attract to KW? I mean, Brent Mitchell, like every other crappy Craigslist lead I got 15 years ago. Okay. That's number one. So, and look at me, my sponsor one person. I was a fairly mediocre agent at Coldwell Banker. Now the top three people in the history of Keller Williams for sponsorships are in her downline. All right. So you can never predict who somebody might become and who they might attract. And the other side of it is this, guys. I mean, if you're going after new agents, it takes time for them to close deals. You have a lot of attrition. You can't be tethered to your next check, because if you are, you're going to give up, before you see the big results. And so, there's a great quote from Gary Keller. That's my new motto. And he says it best. My persistence disguises my stupidity. All right. I am not the best recruiter at KW, guys. I'm just the most persistent and the most consistent. And the best part about where I'm at right now is, look, there's another great saying at KW, things happen gradually, then they happen suddenly, right? The hockey stick approach, right? I just had my best profit share year ever by about 15, 20%. My tree has grown by over 200 agents in the last 12 months. And I haven't sponsored anybody to KW directly in probably 8 years. So the cool thing about my downline is it's passive across the board, and it's growing at an exponential rate. And there's no column on the return on investment spreadsheet for profit share for faith. Either you believe or you don't. Either you believe we're that company or you don't. You either believe that we're the company that's fighting for the future of this industry or you don't. And if you tether yourself to the next check, or you give up because you lost a sponsorship, that's fine. That's why we call it unfair share, right? It's not just 35% of our associates participate in profit share. It's 20% of the 35% that participate make 80% of the profit share, guys. That means that 7% of our associates will always earn 80% of our profit share. And in the next 8 years, I don't know, I'm going to say we're going to give back more than $1.7 billion in profit share. Do the math. 7% of us are going to make over $1 billion in profit share in the next 8 years. And the truth is this, it's not a question of if, it's a question of who is going to get their unfair share. And the advantage that I have is that I'm in a company of a bunch of real estate agents selling real estate. I'm the only guy focused, Brent and I are the only people focusing on profit share. Look, it's been a long journey. I just want to make that, I went from zero to building a life, getting to a point where I'm building a life by design through profit share. It hasn't been all rainbows and unicorns, but that's all behind me. And profit share is a snowball rolling downhill. And if you believe in this company, yeah.
And the fact of the matter is, it's about falling in love with the journey which is something
Absolutely.
that you've truly done. There's so many things that are probably right. Our listener base is all over the place. Some of them aren't even realtors. Many of them aren't even aren't with KW for sure. And so this whole conversation, before we get too in the weeds about what profit share is, why it matters, why people should probably be zeroed in on it more, I want you just to give a really high level overview, if you would, about like passive income. And how did you know that it was passive income that you were really excited about? Yeah. And that this would just simply be your vehicle of passive income of choice?
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that, David, because, I'm on the profit share task force, and I'm dealing with all the people like Linda McKissick and a lot of people that are RDs in this company. And, I get it. They want to make it a wealth building conversation. I know a lot of the interviews you guys do is wealth building conversations. But I want you to understand that if I didn't believe in the why of KW, I could have cared less about the what. So for me, I had to believe in Keller Williams. I had to experience that as an agent. I had to buy into it. I had to have a high level experience at this company. I didn't necessarily, passive income wasn't the driver. It was more an effect of a bigger why. And yeah, I'm not stupid. The idea of making money without working with buyers and sellers, yeah, that appealed to me a lot. Trust me, as you guys know. So I think it just kind of all came together, David. Passive income aspect of it wasn't necessarily the driving motivation, but it was a bonus. And I think that once I sat down and decided that this was going to be my one thing, then I pulled up Linda McKissick, Althea Osborne's profit share and looked at their spreadsheets. And then I made a business decision, which was, you know what? I'm willing to suffer for a while, for the rest of my life to be cake. And I feel like we're getting to that point now where it's cake. And the cool thing is, guys, I don't need to make $1 million a year in profit share to live the life that I want to live. I don't need to work to live a fulfilling life. Okay. I get fulfillment out of teaching 80, 90 classes a year. But do I really get fulfillment out of staying in 80, 90 Hilton Garden Inns a year and being away from my wife from 120 days a year, and for all the things that go along? That was a Ricola, by the way. I apologize about that. But, to me, our big why is we bought 5 acres in the Caribbean on a little island off of Puerto Rico. I'd be starting that build right now if it wasn't for the pandemic and all the things that it's done with pricing and all that stuff. But look, when it goes McKissick, and I'm trademarking that, by the way, when my profit share goes McKissick, which means it blows up, we're going to buy a bunch of land. We're going to build an animal sanctuary, and we're going to save a bunch of 3-legged dogs and cats and goats and donkeys. And, we don't have kids. And when you don't have kids, other doors open. And, we'll will my profit share one day to this animal sanctuary, and that'll be my legacy. But going back to the original question, David, it wasn't the money. It wasn't the money. And that's why I kind of told you my story, is that it used to be about the money, and I wasn't successful because my why wasn't big enough, whether it be personally or my why around the product or service that I was selling. When I saw Gary Keller speak and looked back at my experience at Coldwell Banker and Keller Williams, and I heard Gary's vision for the industry, and I saw what was happening, I was like, dude, I don't need to know the details. All I need to know is I need to get my unfair share of what's about to happen. And look, we were 32,000 agents in 2005. We got almost 200,000 agents worldwide now. I know we've got some new flashy objects in the industry. I have no doubt that KW is standing on the brink of what will be the biggest growth spurt in the history of our company right now. And so that's kind of where I'm at. I'm ADHD, but I also have an OCD component. So look, I'm all in my numbers now, but when it all started, I went with my gut. Just went with my gut. Who knew? No one had ever done what I'd done. So how would I really have known what the results were going to be? And I talk to a lot of people that seek me out, and they're like, hey, tell me what the average recruit is worth. I'm just like, boom, right? There's no such thing. And so while you're calculating your return on investment and whether or not it's worth your time and money, I'm just going after it. And last time I checked, doing it beats thinking about doing it every time. And so fortunately, it's looking like the decision to do what I've done was pretty smart. But there were times when I was strapping an apron on and waiting tables for like 2.5 years. And Keller Williams agents were coming into my restaurant that knew who I was, and I was waiting tables on them, right? So there's a lot of humbling going on, which is great because that, and you said something, David, about enjoying the journey, right? I didn't enjoy the journey back then. I'll be the first person to tell you, I hated when people said enjoy the journey, even though I met my wife in that restaurant. Yes, looking back on it, I enjoyed the journey. But I mean, if you told me we could add a couple zeros to every one of your profit share checks today, I'd take it and say, screw the journey. So the journey's happened. It's behind me. It's shaped me. It shaped my character. It shaped my work ethic. And what I'm most proud about is that I did it always the right way with the highest level of integrity. And, I live by a Mark Twain quote: when you always tell the truth, you never have to remember anything. And so I've been very purposeful. When you're the first person to do something in a company like KW, whether you think you're a leader or not, you are, and all eyes are on you. And there's a reason I keep doing what I keep doing. It's because I haven't given anybody a reason to tell me to stop. And I'm never going to stop. I mean, I'll be in the living in the Caribbean, and maybe I'll just be putting money into my profit share business, and Brent will be doing what he's doing. And someday he'll pass it on to his recruits. And yeah, who knows, man, but I'm feeling pretty good about the future. That's for sure.
I absolutely love it. You've built something really big. And even during that tough portion of the journey, what came to my mind was just the bold lotto of like, don't compare your insides to other people's outsides. And so even as your own recruits are walking into a restaurant where you're serving tables, I'm sure there were agents there, maybe even millionaire real estate agents who were looking at like, man, what is Aaron doing? This is crazy. And
well,
yet,
David, you make a great point, man. So I'm sorry to cut you off.
And so I just think it's important, whether it's profit share or we're talking real estate business or whatever, you just can't compare your insides to other people's outsides.
I sort of want to unpack this idea, Aaron, behind it turning into a business for you, because it sounds like the belief led to a decision to start doing it, but there's this certain point, maybe around the time you met Brent, where you sort of had that change in mindset from this isn't just a job or a passion or a hobby, this is a business that I'm going to grow. I'm just curious if you can unpack that a little bit, because it's one of the things that I try to get agents to understand early on in their career. You're not just an agent or a realtor, you're a business owner. And so just talk about that transition in the mindset and how that ended up affecting your growth immediately after.
Absolutely. Well, I will tell you that, when I had a chance to meet with Gary Keller, I think it was 2 years ago. It was the first time I ever met with Gary Keller one-on-one. It was a big son of a Jewish mother moment. Like, do you love me? Are you proud of me? All right. And I think he was. All right. But when I walked in to meet with him, I said, you created me, right? You created me. You told me to treat profit share like a business. You told me to recruit outside of my market. You told me to think big. You told me to attract the who, right? You wrote this book called the MREA book. I mean, dude, you created me, right? So all the people in Keller Williams got a problem with me. Talk to Gary Keller, because he's the guy that told me to think this big. And look, with Kristen Cole and Ben Kinney, I mean, there were people that were resistant to expansion. I get that, okay? But going back to your question, Joe, it was, desperation is a very powerful motivating tool. And when you jump into profit share with both feet, and you're spending $3,000 a month on monster.com and Career Builder, and, it's a business whether you like it or not. And I had to make large commitments to those job boards, because here was the deal, just a little sidebar. If, back in the day, Monster and Career Builder were the big job boards, and, I was going after new agents, right? So if you ran a job ad on Monster back in the day in Phoenix, it probably cost you $300 for a 30-day ad in Phoenix. But if you commit $20,000 to Monster, well, you get job postings for $60 a pop. All right. So I made large financial commitments to these job boards to get scale and discounts in my lead gen. And so these were 12-month commitments. Thank God they allow me to pay monthly for this stuff. But it was a 12-month commitment, right? So out of the gate, every year I was signing up for these 12-month commitments, and I had $3,000 a month in marketing expenses. And I mean, whether I like it or not, I'm running a business, right? And so I think what happened was it became a business I didn't envision when Brent came along, which was, oh my God, I can just keep building this through my recruits, like an expansion team. And, one of the things I love about Cody Gibson, I heard him speak once, he said, because he's in so many, he's got the most expansion teams. But my impression of Cody is he's willing to give up more. to the expansion partner so that they're successful and that he can expand into more markets. And that was always my theory. If you understand profit share, guys, you make 5 times more money off of somebody you directly recruit versus somebody they recruit. And then you make 10 times more money off of somebody you recruit versus somebody your recruits on your third level, right? So you have to understand it was a business decision. Like, okay, look, money used to be the most important thing for me. Now time is, right? And I think, when you start to make that transition from money to time to overall quality of life. I mean, look, I don't want to have a job where I make $500,000 a year, work 120 hours a week. No, I'll take $250,000 a year and not work, period. So I can do all the things that I want to do. So at that moment, I realized, you know what? I'm burned out, number one. I'm all or nothing. And I think, guys, I won't go deep into some of the issues, but look, there were many things that were going on that time that I couldn't keep doing what I was doing emotionally in many ways. And so it just all kind of came together. And I think what happened is when I took that off my plate and I gave it to Brent, and that was a couple year transition where I was keeping the top 20% leads. I was giving him the lower 80% leads, but I was taking my life back and I was teaching at a higher level. It's amazing because now Brent does it with his recruits, right? And so I can see the future, which is, Brent's got 3 or 4 people that in his first level that work the leads that he doesn't want to work, right? And one of his recruits just passed me. She sponsored more people than me, right? So I think it just it started with the who, Joe, and it sort of became this amazing win-win synergy where I started, and I started to create some leverage in my life through teaching and coaching. And I could say, you know what? It's more important to me to spend time with my wife and to stop raging out over internet recruiting and sponsorship issues or whatever it might be. I'm going to be a lot happier if I'm teaching and coaching and leveraging my recruits to build it for me. So I think the business part came out of necessity because I couldn't sustain it at the level that it was at back in the, when I first started doing it. And so I did it hardcore for 5-6 years. And then I just replaced myself with other people. And fortunately, I was making more money and was able to use that as a leverage tool to generate more leads, to get those guys going. And so that's sort of how it happened. But meanwhile, failure wasn't an option, right? I always joke with people and say, I'm unemployable. I'm unemployable. There's not, this is it. And by the way,
you're hitting on something, Aaron, that's a principle just in business in general. And it shows up in our industry a lot with, our mega agents who I constantly joke around that, as a team leader of a brokerage, my role is primarily just to pry your hand open and force you to give things up. Because your relationship with control is going to determine the scale at which your business is able to grow, and the same exact dynamic is happening inside of your profit share business. Whereas you're starting to let things go and really envisioning the long-term picture, you see this massive scale that happens in both your second and then now in your third and fourth line. Where if you already are in the top 100 earners. Primarily on your first 4 levels, right? What happens in the next 3 decades when you're not only there, but you're also one of the largest in your 4 through 7? So I think that's just a fascinating concept where you're really playing the infinite game. We've never done this before in our podcast. Okay. I mean, I say all the time, we're brokerage agnostic, even though we believe in KW. I'm going to turn this conversation for the next segment really just to our Keller Williams audience, because as well as Joe and I know that not enough people understand how to both speak the language of profit share and really just the nuts and bolts of what it is. And so it goes unnoticed. And that's the reason why only 7% participate or participate at a high level.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's our fault. That's our fault as a company. Let's just be very
100%.
clear.
And I want you to talk about that and how you picture that and how, as really, I called you an evangelist when you and I jumped on off air. Like, how do you start to change the narrative? Yeah. How do we do that together? And just explain to us even a little bit about the nuts and bolts of profit share. Yeah.
I mean, look, sometimes you got to disrupt your own company, right? Not just the industry. And look, KW was this rocket ship of success. We had no real competition. And when you're a rocket ship of success, redefining the industry, nobody wants to hear about this, right? And I will tell you, I believe the greatest thing that has ever happened to KW will be EXP and Compass, because they forced Keller Williams to look in the mirror and figure out how can we be better as a company. And look, you guys are in leadership. I know you're on these growth calls. I know you understand what's going on with this company, what the future of this company is and this industry is. So, I would just say that, you got to believe in that, obviously, because the rest of the what of profit share, the equations, how much money, I was talking with Mark Weiss the other day, and I was like, look, I get it that it's a wealth building conversation, but there's many ways that people can build wealth. The real question is, how do we get them involved in profit share as a part of their wealth building strategy? And my opinion is it starts with their why, right? Here's the deal, guys. And I'll just tell you this. I've been doing this for 11, 12 years as far as teaching and coaching. 80 to 90% of our agents don't even know our own story, period. That's it. I mean, I can tell you right now, we don't talk about profit share. We're not intentional. We've never been intentional about it. We wanted to grow this company on our merits as a real estate company. We talk about training, culture, technology, blah, blah, blah. Here's the thing. The number one value proposition of our company is our culture, which, by the way, starts with profit share, right? I mean, look, humans are the good, the bad, and the ugly. They're good people at every company. They're bad people at every company. Not everybody at KW buys into our culture, but why is it inherently different? It's inherently different because we don't just share in the profits at KW. We make the decisions. We're open book. We are all vested in a true common goal. And by the way, that common goal is not just the profitability of Keller Williams. It's the future of the real estate professional in this industry. And so, people need to understand that it started with profit share. It started, and by the way, let's bring this all back into focus. When I talked about real estate agents being the product, do we not agree, right? We agree that agents are the reason they do business. If there was a better company for your agents to run their business at, they'd probably go there and their clients would follow them. So you would think if you could build a real estate company, agents would never want or need to leave, might give you a slight advantage, right? So guess what? When you treat your agents like partners, when you share your profits with them, when you open your books, when you create a culture where there's an incentive to work together and care about each other, guess what happens? You take over the entire industry. The problem, and so here's what I'm going to say. What gets me so excited about the moment we're in right now is we're not just the best kept secret in our industry. We're the best kept secret in our company. And so I'm the guy from day one who's been saying, how about we try to live up to the model first before we change the model or do whatever. I see all these wonderful things that people are trying to do to adjust their caps or do this. And how about we just live up to the model? How about we just tell our story better to our own agents? How about when an agent walks in the door to join our company, someone actually tells them our story the right way, instead of being scared to tell them our story because we're afraid they're going to go out and recruit people. Well, guess what? They're going to do it anyways. So that you might as well educate them, right? I mean, there's a reason people in this industry still think we're a freaking pyramid scheme. It's because 80, 90% of our agents don't know how to verbalize our value proposition at a high level. And so my focus from day one has always been, I think the next wave of growth is coming from within, not from attracting agents to KW. If all we did was help turn our non-cappers into half cappers or half cappers into cappers, everybody's profit share checks would absolutely explode, right? So profit share is the driver of the culture of our interdependent value proposition in what has always been an independent, dependent industry. And, we got these copycat companies out there that are recruiting our fellow stakeholders. And guys, I'm going to give you Gary Keller's response to them. We're not even the company you're trying to emulate anymore, right? They're trying to emulate Keller Williams from 20 years ago when we were the agent-centric real estate company. Guess what, guys? We're now a consumer-centric company. We are a consumer-centric technology company, agent-driven, building the preferred platform for the interdependent, independent, and dependent agent to do business at. And if you don't understand that the game right now is not the agent game, the game is the consumer game. And if your company is not building proprietary tech, okay, to help your agents provide the most data and the most insights and the best price offer to the consumers, you ain't playing the same game we're playing. And so you said it before, David, the infinite game. We're the only company playing the infinite game. Our competition's playing the finite game. And you better wrap your brains around that if you want to be purposeful about profit share. Because when I look at profit share in Keller Williams, it is an investment of my money and my time. I have to believe where it's going. And so, guys, bottom line is, I'm not going to get into the equation of how profit share works, but look, the bottom line is when you share half your profits with your agents, they tend to buy into your culture more because they realize that they're vested in the success of their fellow stakeholders. The problem is 80% of our agents don't fully understand that. And that's why I make a very good living teaching our story to our own agents, right?
Well, and what I love most about when your passion comes out, which, I mean, let's be honest, your passion's always there, right. Kauffman.
Yeah.
When your passion comes out, you tie together so nicely the entire vision of the organization because it all works together. And like you said, our culture is built on profit share as this leading principle.
Yeah.
And that's why we step everything else back to shifting the game and the mindset from being agent-centric even to consumer-centric. Right?
Yep.
And if we're a consumer-centric company, it takes agent-centered market centers and brokerages.
Yes.
And it takes agents who behave and think like stakeholders, right?
Exactly.
And that's what more people need to know.
And let's get real. I mean, it doesn't just start with the why, it starts with the who. And our who is Gary Keller. And I get it. Gary Keller ain't going to be around for the next 100 years. I would say that I feel pretty confident Gary's a pretty smart guy and to surround themselves with people that do what he does better than he does. But I think, I always tell people, if you want to get purposeful about profit share, go listen to the first 3 seasons of Gary Keller's podcast, Think Like a CEO, because he will take you from why he got into real estate, how his why shaped who we are as a company, and how his why is going to shape who we are moving forward. I think at the end of the day, how many of our agents have read the MREA book, fully understand who Gary Keller is and what our purpose is, right? And I'm a huge Simon Sinek fan. I don't know if you guys love Simon Sinek, but I saw a great interview with Simon Sinek, and somebody had asked him, this was like 3 years ago, they said, in the digital age, what are people going to be craving from their employer and their workplace, right? Now, guys, we ain't just in the digital age, right? We are smack dab in the middle of our most extended digital experience of our lifetime. But what Simon Sinek said 3 years ago is really the message of my class now. And he said, in the digital age, people are going to be craving a sense of purpose and a sense of community from their employer and their workplace. And you tell me what other real estate company can compete with us for purpose and community. That's why price is their only conversation. And honestly, I ain't having the price conversation. I'm having the purpose and community conversation. And for the people that value that, there's a clear choice for who you want to align your business with. For the people that don't value that or think there's a better opportunity to build wealth, there's nothing wrong with that. Okay. I'm just saying, don't you care about the future of your industry? Don't you care about, being a part of a company where you're a part of a community of, 200,000 stakeholders that, God forbid, something bad happens to us or a natural disaster hits our town? We're a part of something bigger. I don't know if that means something. It doesn't have to mean something to everybody. But Simon Sinek says it best, guys, and I'll put a real estate spin on it. It's not about being in business with every agent that needs what you offer. It's about being in business with the agents that value what you value or believe what you believe. Everybody needs what we offer. They just don't all value or believe in what we believe. And that's okay. We don't need to be in business with everybody. All right.
I couldn't say it better than myself. That's why you are the man, Aaron. And so I think that's a beautiful place for us to transition into the last segment of our show, which is 3, 2, 1 action. It's the same 3 questions we ask every guest.
Okay.
You ready for this? You're in the hot seat. I feel like you value the hot seat.
Let's do it.
All right, Aaron, question number 1. Who's the one person who has had the biggest influence on your profit sharing business and how?
I'll go with 2, front end and back end. Front end, Gary Keller. That's the why. That's the inspiration. Back end is going to be Brent Mitchell, right? I mean, those guys, Gary lit the fire. Brent's carrying the torch, right?
Love it. Question number 2. What is the most impactful book on your business and why?
Did I mention I was ADHD? Not the biggest reader in the world, something I do want to challenge myself to do more of. Look, I'm a homer. MREA all day long. I know it's a canned KW response, but it's the foundation of everything that I do, 80-20 rule, freaking leads and leverage, expansion. I mean, it's everything. It's the blueprint of my life. And, I mean, MRE book should be called How to Build a Life by Design. I mean, that is the path. That is the banner that I'm waving, is that, the great thing about Life by Design is you get to choose what that means to you, and so there's no greater leverage tool to build a life by design than passive income, obviously.
Well, as you know, Aaron, this is the All In Podcast, where we encourage our listeners to take what they've heard today and then put it into action. So what would you recommend to our listeners today if they want to go build their profit share tree starting right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts with why. You've got a couple sides of that. Your personal why, right? As Mo Anderson would say, you're cheating your family if you don't do it. But the bottom line is your personal why big enough to propel you to, I mean, look, if you're going to do this face to face, or you're going to get intentional about it, there's stigmas involved with recruiting, right? You have to be more compelled than you are uncomfortable. Let's just leave it at there. Okay. You got to be more compelled than you are uncomfortable, because it's like farming a neighborhood. Everybody gives up before they see results, right? Everybody wants to participate in profit share. Most people are not purposeful about it. The ones that are purposeful about it give up before they see results. So I think start with your personal why. And then if I was coaching you, I would say, okay, great. Let's solidify that first. Second thing you need to do is you got to solidify your why around Keller Williams. You better believe who we are and where we're going as a company. So here's what I would do. Listen to Gary Keller's podcasts, right? Think like a CEO, at least listen to the first couple of years, okay? Just to get a sense of who we are and where it all started and how we emerged from this industry. Get into the Profit Share Mastermind group that I co-manage on Facebook. There's some great masterminding going on in there. What you focus on expands. Linda McKissick, David, I know you have a great relationship with the McKissicks, I believe. But she's got a Profit Share Mastery course. I teach the KW effect. David, I'm expecting someday to come out to Phoenix and teach it in person or virtually. But look, I'm a one-trick pony, but I do this one trick really well. So I would make sure you attend my class, virtually or in person. And then you got to ask yourself this, and you got to be honest with yourself. What lead generation strategy is going to be a fit for your personality, but more importantly, sustainable over time, right? I mean, there's a reason I do internet lead gen and going after new agents. First of all, I like it when they come to me. Let me just say that. I don't like recruiting. I like attracting. That's the number one thing. Second thing is, new agents, they're more scared to talk to me than I am to talk to them, and they don't know anything. And when they get off the phone, they say thank you because I just blew their mind and had a conversation with them that I wish somebody had with me. So that's fulfilling for me. I get fulfillment out of helping people make a more educated decision. And my guess is the real estate agents on this call, that's probably how they run their real estate businesses. They're in the business of helping people, right? The money is a product of that. So be honest with yourself. If you're not the kind of person that is going to be comfortable recruiting somebody across the closing table, then don't do it. Go run some job ads. Go find some new agents. Do a command social media campaign. Do a career night. Host an MREA book club. The bottom line is find out what works for you, and then never stop until you have what you want. And the great thing about profit share, guys, is once you build it, then you can just walk away and it will keep growing over time. And that's what I keep telling Brent Mitchell. It's like, dude, because he's won the Growth Partner of the Year award for the entire company for 11 years. 11 years he's won that award. Sponsored over 1,800 people to our company. And I'm like, dude, you can take a break if you want. You can take a break. Give yourself a couple. He's got 2 kids, right? He's got, take a break, man. You have to understand that if you take a 2-3 month break, that money's still coming in every month. Right. So I think you have to believe in who we are. You've got to believe that you're helping people, and your personal why has to be big enough to sustain the effort over time that it's going to take to see really big results, because profit share is the long game. This is how you build generational wealth. This is not a fast way to become a millionaire. It takes time. Now, look, there are people in this company, like Linda McKissick's only sponsored 30 people to KW. She's got 10,000 people, if not more, in her tree now. So, there's more than one way to do it. I chose new agents. She went after mega agents, right? So I'm just saying, find out what's going to work for you and treat it. Think about it like a real estate business. You can build a great business through relationships, referrals, cold calling, expired listings, FSBOs, farming. Same thing with profit share. You can do internet lead gen. You can do, cold calling the people that are getting their licenses. I mean, you can do anything. So
I think, Aaron, I think the thing that you said that I love the most in answer to that question is you need to be more compelled than you are uncomfortable. And I don't care if it's the profit share conversation, if it is now these listeners are going to turn their podcast off and they need to make 20 phone calls to, FSBOs and expireds. Like, you and I need to be more compelled than we are uncomfortable. Man, this has been just so much fun. And I know our listeners are going to want to connect with you. They're going to want to register for your next class virtually. Where's the best place for people to find more of your content and to connect with you?
Well, if you're at KW, just go onto Facebook, search for Profit Share Mastermind KW. We've got this amazing mastermind group with about 42,000 KW associates in it. That's the best place to find me and to get my messaging and content. But look, just Google me or type me into Facebook, send me a friend request. I'm not that crazy Aaron Kauffman with the beard on Gas Monkey, obviously, but I'm probably one of the top Aaron Kaufmans on the list. So I catch every message, every text, every IM. Nothing gets past me. And David, I just want to add on what you said at the end there. When your why's big enough, I mean, the how's the easy part, right? I mean, that's why I wanted to tie this all in. It's like, dude, I had to believe in that first. How I did it was secondary. It was going to happen. The question is, what was going to be the vessel by which I did it, So reach out to me, guys. If you're at KW, if you're not at KW, if you want a no nonsense, no BS understanding of KW and how profit share works, reach out to me. I'm in the business of helping people make an educated decision. And if KW is a great fit for you, that'll be a decision that you'll make. But the great thing is, we all stand on the shoulders of giants. And I think if you find agents that you truly respect, see where they're doing business, because that's why I'm here. I followed the agents that I respected at KW. And like I told Jason Abrams and Mark King, there ain't another real estate company in me. So I'm all in, brother. I'm all in, and bet on red.
Let's go.
So, thanks again, guys.
Let's go. Yeah. Absolutely love it. Thanks so much for investing time with us and our audience, Aaron. Joe, you want to take us out today?
Well, yeah, I thank you again, Aaron. So much learned, so much value, so much passion that all of our listeners are certainly going to enjoy. So thank you for your time. For our listeners, take what you've heard today, put it into action, and as always, go play all in. Hey guys, thanks for listening to this episode of the All In Podcast. We want to invite you to find all of today's resources from our show page at aipodcast.co. We also ask that you take just 1 minute to leave us a review on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast. This is how we grow and how we're able to bring you the best content each and every week. Now go play all in.